Hello, everyone. This is Cindy Saddleman here, and I know I haven't made videos recently. Just work's been tough. Um, I've had some health issues, but I should be okay. And to help set things up, I actually made a post on my personal Facebook asking some friends some suggestions on a year for the best, worst, and blandest, which I'm about to do right now. You already know what it is because you're reading the title. But to set things up, I have started a new podcast, or actually, I joined an existing podcast with a good friend of mine in Aria Winter, or Whitner. I'll get her last name right eventually. And she suggested the year 1991. Well, who am I to say no to my to a co-host of a podcast I'm on right now? Which, by the way, if you want to hear mine and her thoughts on the weekly pay-per-view version of TNA, yes, those episodes, check out the Something Else with Aria podcast, and every Wednesday we are doing NWA TNA, which is the weekly pay-per-views. And this is the era before they were on Spike, before the whole Anthem thing came about. Heck, this is the era before they were on Fox Sports. This is the weekly pay-per-view version, and we're doing them all. All 111 some odd weekly pay-per-views. We haven't decided yet, once we reach 2004, if we're going to start doing the old impacts from the Fox Sports era. That's going to be fun. So be sure to check that out. And now, since she suggested the year 1991, I'm going to do that. And let's get to it. This is kind of a back end on the Games of 90 thing. You're going to see some shows that I talked about in the Games of 90 be brought up in 91. So let's get to it. Here it is, the best, worst, and blandest game shows of 1991. (1991) when it comes to game shows, especially new game shows at the time, it was not a banner year for game shows. Actually, I'll put it bluntly. A lot of the shows that were on the networks and syndication in the beginning of the year 1991, almost all of them didn't make it past the end of the year. There are some exceptions to this. In syndication, there was like 11 or so starting the year 1991. However, at the end of the year, here's what existed: Wheel, Jeopardy, Love Connection, Studs, and Family Feud. That's it for syndication. As for on the networks themselves, Family Feud, Price is Right, and I think at the end of the year, Classic Concentration reruns. That's it. All those game shows that were on the networks and in syndication, starting in September of 1990, almost all of them were gone by 91 by the end of the year. So, it is, however, unless you're cable, the game shows were still thriving. I mean, this was the year Lifetime dropped Shop Till You Drop on us, which I so wanted to put as the best of 1991. You don't know how much I wanted to wrangle everybody. I almost wanted to put Supermarket Sweep on here too. But I couldn't. I just couldn't pull the trigger. So, I'm gonna say the best of 1991, and more than likely will end up really high on the best of 1990 top 5, is the Challengers. Now, I love the Challengers. It is a great twist on Jeopardy. It is also a pseudo revival of the Who, What, or Where game. It is fantastically produced. Dick Clark hosted that brilliantly. And to be perfectly honest, a show is 20% better if you have a video wall. Challengers had one. Get the Picture, which debuted earlier in 1991, had a video wall. That show was infinitely cooler by having the video wall. And what also helps is the current event style of the show. Because very frequently you'd have, like, TV this week, or recent sporting events, or recent news events that would take place. So if you paid any attention to the news, or if you read a newspaper, you would be able to answer some of the questions, which, as a play-along factor, is really damn good. Now, what kind of holds the challengers back a bit was it could not hold on to a format. For example, the Ultimate Challenge that they had. It originally was, you win 3 games, you play the Ultimate Challenge for a super jackpot. Later on, it's you win the game, you play the Ultimate Challenge for 10,000. And in the middle of its run, I want to say like by February of 91, the Ultimate Challenge was just gone. So the final challenge was the end of the show, so they played almost the entire board, mostly, in the first and second round. And my feeling is that, and it's been confirmed to me by people who know a lot more about the business side of game shows than I do, because of everything that went into this show, it had to be a hit. It had to be a massive hit. And while it pulled in solid ratings, it didn't pull in enough. So it was a one-year wonder. And probably one of the best one-year wonders to ever exist. Still the best, though. I was torn about the Blandest of 1991 because I almost wanted to give it to Love Connection just because Studs came on earlier in the year and it just kind of blew that out of the water. But I will say this in regards to game shows. If you want to bore me to tears, make a word search format. And that's what the Great Getaway game did. Its main crux is that you would answer questions about travel. Of course, it was on the Travel Channel. And you would have to... There was a secret word that you had to figure out by revealing letters on this 30-block board. And I just never was enthralled by it. It's not a bad game by any sorts. It's a functional game. Plus, you have Wink Martindale, who also helped elevate the production values a bit because he brought in his expertise. And it shows. If you take a look at the Jim Caldwell hosted pilot, which I find ironic that Jim Caldwell hosted the pilot and then Wink Martindale hosted the actual show. Sort of a reverse on what actually happened on Tic-Tac-Dough. But it just bored me to tears. So, bland, not very interesting. It was gone within a year, too. I just don't know if the episodes still exist. And they're probably buried in, like, some Travel Channel vault. Like, between old episodes of, like, Modern Marvels or something. Who knows? And as for the worst of 1991, oh, you know I know what everybody is thinking. You're putting Tic-Tac-Dough 90 on here, aren't you? Well, guess what, I'm not. Sure, the show wasn't good, but it wasn't the worst. No, the worst is taking a iconic format that actually kind of worked here in the US, but making it much worse. The Krypton Factor is the worst game show of 1991, and it's a damn good contender for worst of 1990. We'll get to that when we do the top and bottom 5 at the end of the year. as for the show itself, Willie Ames is terrible as a host. And what also doesn't appeal to me at all is they took the format of. They had a junior version of the Krypton Factor in the UK. They had that and did nothing with it in the US. It was 4 rounds, and I want to say what was screwy was the course, and it just seemed rather off compared to what, there were certain advantages that the female competitors had against the male competitors, just because, well, back then they thought that the female body wasn't as strong, as quick as the male counterpart. So I expected to see some of that here, and if you watch this version, the boy contestants just blew away the girl contestants. It happens. From what I saw, the few episodes that are out there, the set is awful. The challenges aren't interesting at all. And Willie Ames is just bad at his job. And I am under the guise that this was punishment for being annoying on Charles in Charge. So, yeah. If you want more thoughts on my take, the 1990 version of the Krypton Factor, go watch the Games of 90 out there. It is just awful. And that concludes the best, worst, and blandest of 1991. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Leave a comment below on what year you want to see me tackle next. Also, once again, check out the Something Else with Aria podcast on Wednesdays, where me and her go through the NWA TNA pay-per-views one by one, week after week. And then come back here, leave a subscription, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see future videos a day early, like these weekend videos, become a Patreon backer at patreon.com/GameShowGumbo. I am Cindy Saddleman. I am going to try to get better, and we will see you next time. Take care, y'all.